Nico's right there. It's okay.
This one too?
Yeah, we're on.
You want to fix that?
You can sit this way a little bit more. It's good. All right, let's get started. Y'all know who I am. It's Burkhead's Corner. And it's me, the host, the Jim Ross of this shit. Well, first of all, I'm gonna get started on the. I'll get to the Bellator 214 in just a minute, but obviously we need to talk about Brooklyn, UFC Brooklyn, the first card on ESPN Plus. It was a good card. It was a good way to introduce, because I feel like some fight fans, or not fight fans, it's just like casual sports fans, you know, miss out on the UFC. And it's good to get it on that main broadcasting of the main sports broadcasting place in ESPN. I like the card. Even some of the guys that I really didn't really know much about really showed out and done their thing. But I'm not gonna. I'll start from Joanna Calderwood versus. I forgot the female's name. It doesn't really matter because she kind of just worked her over, in my opinion. Just give me 1 second. I'm gonna pull her name up because I don't want to be wrong here. Ariana Lipsky. The girl looked good really early on her feet, but then Joanna just completely took over and just worked her. I think this is the best Joanna Calderwood that we've seen, and I think it's because she's not cutting that 115 anymore. We're seeing her at like a more of a natural body weight, I should say, and she looks good, and she definitely looked good. I think maybe you could give her not many people in that weight class right now. Maybe Sahara Eubanks or Nico Montano, but I think that the UFC should just go ahead and just give the fight to give Nico the fight with Valentina, just so Valentina can kind of hush her up a little bit. You know, she said that Valentina's a fluke champion and the UFC didn't treat her right. They may not have treated her right, but at the same time, you showed a little fear by missing your weight. But that's besides the point. So I think Joanna is going to be a threat at that 125 division, and she's definitely coming into her own. And then we can get to Cowboy Cerrone and Alexander Hernandez. I was completely wrong about that fight. Cowboy, early, like within the first minute and a half, 2 minutes, he looked a little off, like he was just trying to fill the kid out. Got ripped with an uppercut, and I think the kid got a little overzealous by trying to go in for the kill that wasn't there. Because, I mean, he might have gotten a little stunned from it, but, I mean, we all know Cowboy, and Cowboy doesn't usually get hurt by punches, excuse me. Alex, he kept lunging forward. And, I mean, Donald Cerrone threw some pretty high knees. His Muay Thai is legit. Kickboxing is legit. He kept leaning forward, and as soon as he would lunge forward, he was just eating the knees right up the middle. I also believe the kid had a hard time closing range on Cerrone, and Cerrone did a good job creating space and just slipping and ripping. I mean, he was cutting angles on the kid. It looked like old Donald Cerrone, but it's like we get accustomed to these performances from Cerrone, and then like he just drops off. But all in all, fantastic performance. I think he worked the kid, and the kid got taught a valuable lesson. You know, don't talk shit to Cowboy Cerrone, because it just doesn't fly. Like he won't talk shit back to you. He doesn't get angry. He doesn't really fight angry, but he does got some nasty power when he finally starts throwing it. So, kid kind of earned that, and I think he learned definitely a valuable lesson. And he abandoned his game plan, and that it showed. And he's got a bright future, you know. But moving on from that, and also I already know everybody wants to hear about Cowboy and my thoughts on Cowboy and Conor. You'll get him. Trust me. Glover Teixeira and Carl Roberson. First of all, credit to Carl Roberson for stepping in above his weight class and fighting a guy like Glover Teixeira. It was obvious that he was a little flustered being on that ground. And, he almost had, he finished it with the arm triangle, but he almost had it early before he even locked it in, you know. Kid got out of it, but then put himself right back into it by just putting his arm in between Glover's head, and Glover just recognized it, being the jiu-jitsu practitioner he is, and tapped him. But yeah, like I said, credit to Carl Roberson. That kid's got a bright future. It's just I think he's got a lot to work on as far as his ground goes. And I was definitely impressed by Glover, and I really couldn't tell you what's next for him. You know, maybe give him a Dominic Reyes, maybe, or Volkan Oezdemir. But I think Volkan's got a fight coming up, I believe. I'll double check that in a little bit. But I do want to say Paige Van Zandt, Rachel Ostovich. Paige, that was probably some of the sloppiest fighting I've ever seen, in my opinion. Rachel, and they just kind of just rolled around like they were in jiu-jitsu practice, honestly, trying to lock up stuff on each other that wasn't there. I believe Rachel had the advantage early, and it was kind of embarrassing to watch, and honestly, that was probably the hottest fight in UFC with the women, you know. But at the same time, it's like, who really cares about that if you're a fight fan? I think Paige came out fresh in that second round, got that armbar, popped her shoulder. But kudos to Paige for coming back and getting that win after a 370-day layoff. Well deserved. Good to see her back. I didn't think that she was going to pose any type of threat, just being out that long and not really focusing on fighting and focusing more on, I guess, her personal life with the Dancing with the Stars and whatever else she was doing. And she had that injury with her arm. But good stuff. I don't really know who you could give her next, because every time you give her somebody of really high stature, she caves and gets broken. But moving on from that, Joseph Benavidez beating Dustin Ortiz on decision. Joseph looked a little like he was just trying to feel him out in the first round, so I gave the first round to Dustin, but the next two rounds I gave to Joseph. Joseph just utilized his wrestling, held him down, and always shot for just different things. He was shooting for some submissions. When they stood up, he caught him with a hard shot. So, he's working on that. He thinks that he's next for the belt for Henry Cejudo, and I think that they're going to close the division down. There's two contenders there. Henry, who's the champion, and number two is Joseph Benavidez. That division is kind of dead in my eyes. And I hate to say that because it used to be fun and having Mighty Mouse around, but Mighty Mouse is gone. I don't think that Henry can carry that division, especially because there's nobody there with him. But that's besides the point. I'll get to him in a minute. Gregor Gillespie beating Yancey. I was wrong about that fight too. Gregor surprised me. I didn't think that he would be able to just impose his will like that on a guy like Yancey. But Yancey, in the early stages, got a little flustered. He only landed a shot the entire fight. Once he started getting up against that cage, he had nothing for the kid. And then Gregor in the second round came out with the same game plan, held him down. And then at that point, he was just broken. He couldn't make his way out of anything. And he just had to eat those punches. Obviously, we all know that, I heard some people booing. I don't know if it was the performance, because it was a lackluster fight, but I feel like people were booing maybe because that Yancey was able to stand up immediately. Yancey knew he was done. He was just going to continue to eat shots, and it was a good stoppage based on Yancey just being, his will was broken, so to speak, It was just a bad night for Yancey at the office. Yancey's always going to be that middle card guy that will give you fantastic fights as long as he has somebody standing across the cage that's willing to stand and bang with him. You know, if you take him down and like Gregor did, that's what's gonna happen, and we witnessed it. Alan Crowder beating Greg Hardy via disqualification. Good job by Alan. He weathered the storm. Greg Hardy hasn't realized that you can't just throw jabs and maybe a straight and a bunch of hooks and think that you're gonna land. You know, maybe some of these lesser ranked guys that ain't really like the guys that he's been running through here in the Contender Series and then that little model MMA organization that they had on the Fight Pass for his fight. You're not gonna do that to guys that have gotten to the UFC. I'm just sorry. It's not going to happen. Obviously, Dana thought that he was just feeding Alan Crowder to the dog, so to speak, and he brought the dog out of Alan. Alan was landing hard shots early, took him down, and obviously they showed that Greg Hardy can't wrestle. It was good. Good performance by him. I think, speaking on this disqualification, Greg Hardy, incompetent, not used to being in the cage, allowed a guy standing across from him to get to him. I think if we all read his lips, he was like, "Come on, hit me, motherfucker, hit me." And Greg Hardy tried and he couldn't. You know, the guy just had him mad. And I think out of anger, he threw the illegal knee. You know, because he wanted to hurt the guy, because the guy was standing across from him and, you know, running his mouth. And the guy, smartly, he probably could have continued the fight, but he was probably smart in just allowing the ref to stop the fight. You know, that was just such a dirty knee, and that was just incompetence and lack of knowledge of being where he is. And Greg just got outsmarted and made himself look really stupid. And all the background around Greg being in the UFC, you know, this does not help his cause at all. It actually makes him look terrible. But, you know, things happen in there that some people can't control, and obviously he couldn't control himself. I'm sure he'll be back, you know, because he's a draw, because he's a former football player, and he was a former football star, so he'll be back. Henry Cejudo beating TJ in 32 seconds. Early stoppage. Way too early of a stoppage. TJ was hurt. I've seen people say he was knocked down 4, 5, 6 times. What fight were y'all watching? He was knocked down twice. One of them was a push. And then he did get caught. He was eating some shots. But I was watching a video today of Big John McCarthy. I mean, I would say he's the greatest referee that ever lived. He's the OG in the game. Big John talking about that fight. You know, he was a little like, you know, at that point, you know, the referee has to make very rash decisions to everything going on. His heart racing, his brain is turning, and he was like, you could tell that, I believe it was Kevin or Rudolph or something like that. I'll just, give me a second. And I'll look his name up, so I don't want to be wrong about that. But while I'm looking that up, TJ wasn't out. Cejudo missed his last 2 shots that was thrown in the fight, and TJ was shooting a single leg. You know, he might not have got it. I mean, you're shooting a single leg on a Olympic gold wrestler, but at the same time, you know, that's the New York State Athletic Commission putting a referee in there that's not experienced with title fights, and it showed. It really showed. Like, we had Dan Mergliata in the building. He had just reffed the Greg Hardy and Alan Crowder fight and handled that like a vet. And Dan Mergliata is a very, very skilled referee, and he has a lot of experience in these title fights. And I did not understand. I didn't understand. I don't really care about the referee's name. Just, he was incompetent as hell. I didn't understand the stoppage. Maybe, you know, if people can be right that he might have just took unnecessary damage, but at the same time, go back and watch John Jones versus Daniel Cormier 2. Big John was the ref. Cracked him with a head kick. He swept the leg. He was on the ground, and he took maybe 2 or 3 unnecessary shots. But that was Big John being wise to the big situation, big match situation, calm as hell, and then he stopped it rightfully. You know, I don't think this is the right stoppage. I believe that they're gonna run it back at 135 because I do believe that division is gonna get shut down, and you know, it sucks because of what Henry just did, but at the same time, who really cares? Honestly, that division is dead. It's just dead. And hey, what if he can come up and take that belt from TJ? You know, I mean, what can we say then? You know, I don't say it's a fluke because Henry Cejudo fought his ass off, trained his ass off. I'm sure so did TJ, and I believe that he made a TJ Dillashaw worry, and he hurt him. Hell of a fight from Cejudo. Congratulations to Henry Cejudo. But I do not believe that fight was rightfully stopped. And I'll go to bat for that. 100%. 100%. But let's move on a little bit. I'm not going to play matchmaker, but I think the next fight to make is TJ versus Henry Cejudo. Marlon Moraes got a fight coming up with Rafael Assunção. If Rafael wins, I believe that they need to start thinking about his title shot because he's a gatekeeper, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. I also want to speak on my love for John Jones. I'm not going to speak about him a lot more, or a lot coming up. I obviously see a little bias from me, and that's not the intention that I'm trying to show, because that's the whole point of this channel, is being unbiased and giving you guys legit updates, legit opinions, and legit comparisons, and just legit everything behind this MMA sport that we all know and love. I mean, that's why you guys are watching. So I think that I'm going to take a step back from the whole any John Jones situation unless it needs to be spoken on. Like, let's just say that this positive test that they got him with at 232, if you're not going to consider it a positive and a fail, then why even mention it to the public? It's kind of, you just throw dirt on the guy's name. That's unnecessary, but I'm not going to speak on him anymore. I will speak on his fight with Anthony Smith coming up, closer to the fight, so I'm not going to speak on it that much right now. But I do show a little bias. I mean, come on now, you know, and I can't do that. That's not the point of this, and I apologize. 214, Bellator 214 tomorrow night. Emelianenko versus Bader. For the winner gets the Grand Prix title, and the winner also gets the heavyweight championship that is also vacant. A lot of people are underestimating Bader because of who he's fighting. You know, Emelianenko is a GOAT as far as heavyweights go. I think he's the greatest fighter to never touch and step foot into the UFC octagon. And even if he did, I'd still consider him one of the greatest heavyweights ever, you know. Just based on accomplishments, what he did in Pride, overseas in Japan. He didn't fare too well when he came back over to America. A little couple mistakes with Verdum, or with the Verdum fight, going to the ground with the guy and basically sticking his neck in the spot that it shouldn't have been in against the black belt in jiu-jitsu. And then Hendo, he had him hurt, and then Hendo that just goes to show you his fucking chin. Got up and just cracked him. And I was talking to a good friend of mine the other day, actually yesterday, and we were speaking about his loss to Bigfoot Silva. I think that he just knew that he shouldn't have lost that damn fight. Hold on, let me get that up really quick. Give me 1 second. 1 second, guys. Sorry about that. Yeah, after he lost to Silva, you know, I think that just really wore on his mind. You know, he took the Verdum loss first, and then he fought Silva, lost to Silva. I just think that he just got it's just a little dumb. Like, he knows he shouldn't have lost that fight, but it happens to the best of us. You know, he's only lost one fight since, and that was to Matt Mitrione. And I think what Bader doesn't need to do is like sit there and just think in the back of his mind, like, oh my God, who am I fighting? Who am I fighting? Don't psych yourself out. You know, just go in there and fight your game plan. I believe that, you know, a lot of people would think that Fedor has the advantage in wrestling. I don't agree with it. Fedor is the type of wrestler to just kind of take you down and just pound you out. Bader is the type of wrestler to take you down, hold you down, wear on you, you know, land a couple strikes in between and then switch spots to make you think, or switch positions to make you think, and like, you know, a lot of transitions and just pounding you up against the cage. You know, Fedor will take you down in the middle of the octagon and keep you there, you know, but Bader will take you down and press you up against the cage so there's nowhere you can go. I'm not, you know, I'm very up in the air about this. I want Bader to win. I'm not going to make a pick on the fight, but I do want Bader to win just because Fedor, you know, age is starting to show on him. He's obviously unfazed. He's never going to be fazed by any individual. He thinks, I mean, when he fought Chael made him laugh. Like, you know, he's not fazed by nobody. But I'd just like to see Bader win just based on, I mean, he's the light heavyweight champion of Bellator, and he'd, you know, be the double champ over in Bellator. I'd like to see it. I really would. I'd like to see him beat Fedor and maybe devastating fashion. You never know. But I will not make a pick for that. Next fight, Aaron Pico versus Corrales. I got Pico. Kid's a good boxer. He's a great wrestler. And I think that he breaks Corrales and, you know, walks away with a victory. I see him in the title picture and possibly the champion of that featherweight division in Bellator by the end of the year. Jake Hager, which is Jack Swagger, making his debut against J.W. Kaiser. If Big John made a really good point. I was watching an interview today. He was like, Brock didn't like getting punched in the face. And, you know, he came from that. He had a collegiate wrestling background, Division I All-American, Minnesota, and he didn't like getting hit in the face a lot. And it showed. So, and he was talking about CM Punk not being athletically gifted coming into the octagon or the cage period. And I think that it was a good point to make because, you know, these guys have never really been punched in the face in that ring. And if they have, it was by accident, you know. Excuse me. Now you're going to have a guy standing in front of you wanting to knock your block off. So we'll see how he takes it. I think his wrestling is definitely going to play in the favor in this. But I pick him. The other guys 0-1. Jack Swagger or Jake Hager have never fought. But, I mean, you could just impose your will, you know, what you trained for all this time to get used to this. It's going to be interesting to see. I see a lot of talk coming in between about Anderson Silva versus Conor McGregor. I'm going to go ahead and shut that shit the fuck down because don't nobody want to see that shit. Sorry. Anderson is 185 pounds. He walks around at probably a good 200. Conor McGregor walks around about 165, 170, and he's 5'9", facing a guy that'd be 6'2". It's not right. It ain't good. It's not good for business. I think that would be the stupidest fight under the WME-IMG banner that they can make for the UFC. I don't want to see it. I do not want to see that fight. It is absolutely stupid. I think Anderson should stop talking about that and focus on the phenom of Israel Adesanya that's sitting in front of him that literally used to idolize the guy. Now, you know, guys like that usually just they pose more of a threat to a guy that they idolize. You know, they focus on you your entire career. They've been watching you, laying and praying, and he's going to be standing across the octagon with you in less than a month. So I think you should focus on that before you start focusing on making super fights with Conor McGregor, the lightweight. I will play matchmaker with Cowboy and Conor McGregor. I think that is the fight to make. Both men want it. The fans want it. I think that fight would be a barn burner. It would be tough to make that a main event, but they will because it's Conor McGregor. And I think it would be maybe a little wrong to put a title fight underneath that fight. unless it was for maybe you could put TJ and Henry back on that card and put them in the co-main event slot at 135. Just an idea. But I think that is the fight to make for Conor McGregor. You know, Donald wants it. I did not like Ariel Helwani's comment saying what happened to the Donald Cerrone that we once knew, telling him that he was going to kick his ass at the press conference and saying something about better eat your Lucky Charms and shit like that. But Ariel can shut his fucking mouth, for real. I like Ariel, but he said some couple things that I don't like since he's been with ESPN. And I do think that Ariel should keep his mouth shut. Just my opinion. Sonny.
Yeah.
Come here. Sorry, guys. I obviously I'm watching myself just to make sure there's no interference, and there's interference now. Can you check that?
Oh, yeah.
It's frozen. Why is it frozen?
Because there's 10%.
Okay. Sorry. I had 10. It says I had 10%, so I'm not going to be on here that much longer. But long story short, the Cowboy Cerrone and Conor McGregor is the fight made. I like that fight. I think the fans like that fight. I think they need to give us that fight. And I don't know if I was able to get through before the camera stopped, but if you put a title fight underneath that just to draw the card, Henry Cejudo, TJ Dillashaw at 135 for the belt. Why not? Run it back. You know, there's so many questions that need to be answered, and I want to see it again. So run that shit back. Let's see it. Justin Gaethje and Edson Barboza is not going to be on the UFC Nashville card. They moved it up to March 30th in their own main event in Philadelphia as a fight night, and I think it's a smart move because that's a main event caliber fight over Wonderboy and Pettis. I prefer to see that over Wonderboy and Pettis, but now that they separated them, now we got it makes more sense that way. Paulo Costa, also I think that fight is probably going to be fight of the year. Just throwing it out there. Unless they throw Cowboy and Conor in there, then I think that might steal the show. But Paulo Costa and Yoel Romero at middleweight is announced for April 27th in the main event. I did not see where that was going to be located at, so sorry I didn't write that down. Colby Covington should shut the fuck up because nobody wants to fucking hear his mouth anymore. All that dude does is talk shit and try to be matchmaker, yet won't sign the contract to fight Tyron Woodley. So what's your beef here, kid? Like, you're running your mouth to the wrong people. You're running your mouth to Daddy Dana. Dana is not going to tolerate that shit. Ain't nobody ever in their career sat there and ran their fucking mouth with Tito Ortiz and look where he's at, fighting Chuck Liddell for a third time after Chuck had been I've been out of fighting for 8 years and lost the last 4 fights and now 5 by knockout. You know, he's not going to tolerate that shit. Colby, if you want to fight, fight. If you don't, don't. Until then, shut the fuck up. End of story. The UFC, do you think that they should add the class for 165? Yes, 100% they should. You got guys like Nate that would fight there. Dustin Poirier has shown his stuff that he wants to lobby for that fight. Hey, do it. Fuck it. Let's do it. Start that division. We could talk more on that next time, but I think that they should. I also seen a report Ronda Rousey was leaving WWE. It got corrected later. Dave Meltzer was a very, very big insider for pro wrestling rumors. And he reported that she was leaving after Mania, but then he also found out later that Ronda Rousey is through contract with WWE through 2021, and that she just wants to take time off and start her own family. Hey, props to her. I don't really like talking about her a lot because obvious reasons. I've spoken in the last video. But I think I've touched on just about everything. It seems like all the divisions have a title fight coming up besides heavyweight. So Daniel Cormier, you need to pull your head out of your ass and sign a contract. I can't think of any other division besides the UFC bantamweight women's title, and that doesn't matter because she just fought in December. And maybe the bantamweight title for the UFC men's, and I've already just made that fight. There's no other anybody that you just watched Henry Cejudo win the fight on paper, and I think it's the fight to make. I think we all want to see it again. I would. I would. Obviously, I'm paying money for the fucking ESPN Plus. So let's see it. Run that shit back. I'm down for it. But I think I'm gonna call that a night. Tomorrow is UFC 214. I mean UFC Bellator 214 with Emelianenko and Bader for that heavyweight Grand Prix. Tune in. I think it's I don't know if it's on the DAZN or Paramount Network or both, but definitely if it's on the DAZN, subscribe and watch it. It's gonna be a good fight. And definitely Aaron Pico. I think that kid's the future of MMA. But I'm gonna sign off here, and that's it. Y'all have a good night.